So if you're new to pen testing in 2022, I wanted to set the record straight with you guys, give you guys a roadmap of how you can get into this field. I know I've done a similar thing before with OSCP. In this video, we're focusing on how can you get into pen testing, and not necessarily that you have to be a complete beginner for this to be useful advice to you. If you are anyone that is, let's say, a little bit before the intermediate stages, let's say you're not quite at a level where you're doing, you're able to crank out CTFs yet, this will be the perfect video for you guys here in 2022. Now, the reason I specify the year is because, you know, things change very rapidly in this field. There's constantly new platforms and stuff springing up, and, you know, new opportunities to learn this stuff, which is amazing because this whole landscape is definitely a lot better, a lot more beginner friendly than it was when I first learned this stuff. So I wanted to create a kind of compendium of information here that you guys can go and refer back to at any time. And I even have a nice little visual aid for you guys. I'm going to be laying down the kind of what I would recommend just as a general kind of flow, things you can do, step 1, step 2, step 3. Now, what I will say before we get right on into this is that I'm actually in the process of working on a free product for you guys, and I'm still working out, you know, exactly how this is going to work, but basically it's going to go something like this. You know, you answer a few questions, and based on your situation, it can recommend you a complete pathway of how to get, you know, go from where you are to where you want to be. So really excited about that, that free product that I'm going to be coming out with really soon. But in the meantime, this is definitely going to, I think, be able to satisfy the needs of the majority of the beginner viewers out there, I would say. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Let's say you're a complete beginner. You're coming into this field, and, you know, maybe, you know, you're really overwhelmed, most likely, right? Maybe you have a degree, but it's in an unrelated field. You know, you currently, your job is in something unrelated. Not to worry, you can get into this field 100%. Where I would start you off for sure is a platform called TryHackMe.com. Now, this is not a surprise to anyone who's been watching this channel for a bit of time here. You guys know that I love this platform. I would consider this like the training wheels. Now, with that being said, even if you are an intermediate, even advanced, you know, guy or girl, whatever the case may be, you can still learn a ton from this platform. In fact, I use this platform quite a bit. For example, there's always new CVEs and things coming out. A lot of times there are little rooms on there you can do to get a nice guided walkthrough, but hands-on experience at the same time. So one such example was the sudo exploit that came out recently. There are some rooms on it. The log4j, that huge incident, right? There was a room on there where you could get hands-on with exploiting log4j vulnerabilities. And then also, I would be curious to see if there's some PK exec ones with the new Privesk, new PK exec Privesk that recently came out. I should probably do a video on that here pretty soon, but I digress. This is where you want to start out with, especially if you're completely new, right? So with that being said, what should you even focus on here? Because you're going to go on the site and you're going to see a ton of different options, right? They got pathways. I will say the simplest, you know, if you want a general thing that you can do, let me just pull it up for you guys so I can give you some more visual aid while I'm talking through this, right? As a general recommendation, you won't go completely wrong. You can't go too wrong just following the paths on this site. Now, I will say, once you get past the very beginner content, it is a subscription model, so they're going to charge you $10 a month if you want to, but I would highly recommend that, definitely. But just to let you know, after you get past the very beginner rooms, they will say, hey, if you want to do this room, you got to pay for the subscription. But, I mean, I personally pay for it, so I would say it's worth it for sure. So I would start off definitely learning things like network fundamentals, how the web works, Linux, Windows, all this stuff. I would start there because, yeah, it might not be the sexiest material, let's face it, but it's very, very foundational material that is going to pay off greatly once you do get into the more hands-on material, shall we say, with the actual hacking. If you skimp out on this section, it's only going to hurt you later because you're going to have to keep looking things up and keep going back. So really pay attention in these sections, take thorough notes, and that's going to set you up so much for success down the line. Now, if we go in here, right, they have all these paths. What we just looked at was the pre-security path, but we also have a number of other paths. I would say if you're really interested, you really love this platform, go ahead and do a complete path such as the web fundamentals or offensive pen testing or anything like that. But for the majority of people, if you want to learn as efficiently as possible, I would say that, I would actually recommend a slightly different path. So this whole video is not going to be, hey, just do TryHackMe. As great as it is, I want to give you a little bit more than that, right? Now, you're never going to go wrong with just staying on this platform and learning a bunch of stuff, but you're going to learn a lot more if you take the training wheels off, right? Because like I said, as great as this platform is, especially like these pathways here, they're still a bit training wheel-ish, right? And if you look at something like the offensive pen testing path, eventually they do remove the training wheels a little bit. For example, with what they call advanced exploitation, which it's really not too advanced. It's just a little bit less hand-holding. It's a little bit more open-ended how you go about it. But even still, these have a lot of guided portions compared to other CTFs out there. So what I would say is that, after you at least, if you don't like this platform too much for whatever reason, at least get through the pre-security and a little bit of the offensive pen testing, a little bit of the web fundamentals. At that point, you're ready to take off the training wheels, I would say. Now, what would I recommend after that? So, tryhackme.com. Let's just clarify this here, right? The pre-security. And I would say a bit of web fundamentals and offensive the offensive pen testing, right? And then is where you'd want to transition into CTFs. Now, honestly, it's really up to you, but to keep this guided, right, I'll give you my recommendations for CTFs. I would recommend an online battle arena. So Hack the Box is great. If you want to stick to the TryHackMe platform, there are TryHackMe CTF boxes, essentially online battle arena boxes. So you're gonna have to look a little bit in a different place for this. So if you hit the practice icon here, you see it goes up to insane boxes, which this one is actually pretty hard. I've seen some people do it, and as you see here, right, it really varies. I would look for one on here that is not guided. So, for example, if I were to go to this, and I probably can't see it without being logged in, but basically what I mean by not guided is it doesn't tell you what to do. It's just basically like, hey, put in the flag. That's all you get, pretty much. Like, compromise this. Maybe it gives you a little scenario. They usually give you scenarios in TryHackMe. That's fine. But yeah, you wanna go here. Yeah, practice general. Here we go. We see like a bunch of different ones. You could probably start with some of the popular ones here. So, for example, something like this, right? It's just like, hey, compromise this and escalate privileges to root, right? These are the challenges that are the next step for you, if you will. And you're going to learn a lot more from this, if I'm being honest, because it's going to require a lot of independent research and a little bit of struggle, to be honest with you. But that struggle is very necessary in learning and developing your skill set. Now, if you want to go off this platform, for a long time I've recommended Hack the Box, right? And I would still recommend this as a pretty good one. But let me show you a little bit something more with Hack the Box than I often hear people talk about. So obviously you have, and I'm probably going to need to log in to really show you guys in depth. Back on the screen, I'm logged in this time, and they've really overhauled this site a lot. So you have your machines, right? And they have an active pool and a retired pool. I would first start with some retired machines. That's what I would recommend. because these ones have walkthroughs to them. Now, I wouldn't rush out to look at the walkthroughs, obviously, but that is an option that, if you're stuck for a while, I would say definitely look at it. Don't be afraid to look at walkthroughs, but don't overly rely on them either, is what I would say. So just going back to this, I would say hack the box, right? Hack the box. You're going to start with retired machines, okay? And then eventually go to the active machines. And a little bonus content, right? Because everyone knows the active and retired for the most part, people that are familiar with Hack the Box. But I was surprised. One thing that a lot of people were not aware of is that that's only I would say half of the equation. There's also challenges, fortresses, and end games. Don't worry about end games. You have to literally have gotten to the highest rank on this platform to even unlock those. But challenges and fortresses are going to be accessible to a lot more people. Now, when you start off, you're not going to have fortresses accessible. I think you got to reach hacker rank for that. But these are basically hosted by companies. So these different companies have different entire challenges that you can work through. So for example, we're looking at Synactive here. They have this whole set of things. And now it's not always vulnerable machines per se. A lot of times they involve challenges. So what are challenges? This is something that's good to at least supplement. When you want to do a few challenges, you don't want to just do... A lot of people on this platform, all they do is the vulnerable machines, which, don't get me wrong, that's good, but you're kind of missing a lot of stuff that's going to make you more well-rounded as well. So, for example, the challenges, there's a number of different categories here, and some of them lean a little bit more towards exploit developer or even blue team in some cases, than the offensive side, but some of them are very good to have knowledge, and you can never go wrong learning this stuff either way. If you really want to focus and be really airtight focused on the offensive side, I wouldn't worry too much about hardware unless you're really interested in getting into like IoT hacking and that kind of stuff. I would say to stick to cryptography would be a good one. Do a few crypto challenges. Do some pwn challenges. Oops. The pwn challenges are going to be like, stuff like buffer overflows, your memory exploits, basically, exploiting binaries and things like that. Now, I will say the one downside to this is that all of their pwn challenges, from what I saw, and I could be wrong, but 90% of the pwn challenges that I saw when I was doing them on this platform were Linux binaries. So they're kind of lacking in the Windows binaries department. So just keep that in mind. You also have web challenges, right? So if you want to hone your web hacking skill set, you can do that through some challenges rather than just only doing vulnerable machines. Mobile is something that I would only do if you're interested specifically in mobile pen testing, but you might want to do a few just to get a feel for it. Maybe you want to dip your toes in the water there. Reversing and stego are things that I personally wouldn't say that you really need to know as an offensive guy. Maybe some reversing. I mean, some reversing definitely you can do. I would avoid the stego probably unless you want to get into like just doing CTF challenges for the sake of doing the challenges and competing or something like that, right? But I would say even the reversing, a lot of that stuff you can get by doing the pwn, and it's going to be more geared towards offensive security. What I've seen is the reversing was a little bit more on the blue team side, but still, you can't go wrong with it if you want to dive into that. But OSINT, really cool. Definitely, if you want to go on the offensive side, red team especially, you want to put some time into here. And then again, forensics is more of the blue team thing, but could be cool to look into if you wanted to. So all of that is to say that you want to do some hack the box challenges. So at this point, you will be pretty well set. You're gonna have a solid foundation, right? You're going to have some hands-on experience as well. And the whole time you're doing all this stuff, all along the way, you want to be building up your notes. So from day one, you want to create a note sheet and you want to keep adding and adding, compounding to your notes and just really strengthening them up. Trust me, it's going to be your best friend down the line. You never know when you might need that crucial command, right? And it's going to save you a lot of time that you would otherwise waste looking up the same stuff over and over. So make sure you're building up your notes throughout. But at this point, if you went through all this, right, you're going to have not only a solid foundation, you're going to have some technical skills, and you're going to be able to do fairly well in an interview, I would say. Now, at this point, it really depends on, you know, what you want to do. I would say the extra thing that I would recommend is have something tangible that you could showcase to a potential employer, especially if you don't have an IT-related degree. So maybe that means you get more active on Twitter, Discord, and you really establish a name for yourself in the community. You know, create a blog site even. You know, create content in some kind of way that you can then use to showcase to a potential employer that you know this stuff. And another thing that would never hurt is to go for a certification. I would say at this point, and you don't even have to go super in depth on the Hack the Box. If you've just rooted, let's say you've rooted like 10 machines or so, 10 machines on any CTF platform, right? I would say at that point that you're good to start the OSCP, the PWK, honestly, because it's going to give you a lot of the information there. Now, a little asterisk I'd put in here is you're going to want to do some kind of Active Directory training before you start PWK, because as you guys might know, if you watched my videos recently, I wasn't really pleased with the training, the Active Directory training in the PWK, you know, OSCP labs, for complete beginners. So you're going to want to get some experience in it. I would say stick to TryHackMe. Now, obviously, there's a lot of different platforms you could use to learn Active Directory. My top recommendation would be Throwback from TryHackMe, because not only is it very real world Active Directory, you get a full lab environment as you see here, but it also will kind of hold your hand a little bit in that typical TryHackMe fashion. Now, one thing to note is this is an additional purchase you're going to have to make. You have to buy the lab time for certain, you know, for about $60 for 30 days. You have a 45-day option. But really, compared to the other alternative AD labs out there, it's really not too expensive. If you really can't, for whatever reason, you can't afford that, you can do the Active Directory AD training on TryHackMe that is part of the subscription, but it won't be as good of a training environment because you won't get a full-on lab scenario like this. Keep in mind, for the OSCP exam, you're going to have an AD lab. There's going to be multiple machines, so something like this is going to better prepare you. And of course, on the real world, you're going to be dealing with an AD network, right? An entire network of machines. And the cool thing about this is it allows you to start using C2 frameworks in here, get some experience. I would say that an optional thing you can do is get experience with a C2 framework. Open source one will be the most accessible for most people. So Covenant would be really good. Let's just come back here. I would say TryHackMe, Throwback, AD Lab, and optional would be use Covenant C2 framework on the lab. Okay, so you put down your agents, your beacons. I guess they call them grunts in Covenant, right? So you exploit a machine, you throw down your grunt, have it connect back to your C2 server, and yeah, you're basically able to pivot around the lab environment using Covenant to manage all of your shells, essentially, and do all kinds of data exfiltration and streamline that whole process. It makes pivoting a lot easier as well. C2 frameworks are something you're going to use all the time as a red teamer, especially. So if you're interested in that area, definitely don't skip out on this optional thing here. Now, from here, you can enroll in PWK. And then get OSCP, baby. It might take you more than one attempt, I'll say. Most people, that is the case, but just keep going at it. Now they have some subscription models, which I'll talk about in future videos, but I don't want to overwhelm you guys too much. Let's just take it all in. This is the path that I would recommend for most people if they want to get into the offensive side from complete beginner. Now, say you're not complete beginner, well, you can maybe skip some of these steps, right? You probably know the pre-security stuff and all this. Maybe you're ready to start CTFs already. In that case, something like this, 10 machines, you prepare, boom, get some AD experience, and then you can enroll, and you're going to learn a lot right here in this step here through the PWK. So this is the process that I would recommend for most people. You should be job ready most certainly at this point. So pat yourself on the back once you get here. Now, of course, this is not the only path. This is not the path that I took. You know, these opportunities weren't available to me. In fact, I didn't even pay any attention to certs until a really long time. In fact, I've been recently getting on the cert grind. So don't think you have to have a certification to get a job. Don't think that you have to follow this path. But if I were to recommend one, this one would be it right here. So yeah, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. If you have any questions, most certainly let me know. And yeah, stay tuned for that free product. And if you want to get into some more free content, I have that on the screen right now for you guys. I'll see you guys right over in those videos. Thanks for watching.